Greetings. Thank you for this opportunity to speak about a topic which I'm especially passionate about, and that's leadership. I'm currently the MD and CEO of Randstad in India, with 60,000 employees across the four corners of India. I'm challenged every day as a leader. And when you think about leadership, what are the key critical characteristics of the effective leader? Especially here in 2020, with the crisis that we've faced and we continue to face, optimism and resilience rise to the front. Let's take a look back at leadership and how we defined leadership over the years. If we go way back to when I was coming up as a young leader in Canada and also working in Japan for many years, IQ, the intelligence quotient, was a key indicator of the high potential leader. We believed for many years that the intelligent young talent had the chance to be the leaders of the future. Many companies created fast-track programs for those intelligent young talent to get on to these leadership programs, which ultimately would lead them to the front of the organization. However, what we discovered is that intelligence was not enough. There was one more very important quality, and that was the emotional quotient, EQ, the ability to connect with others. And therefore, words like empathy and more recently compassion came to the front. The combination of intelligence and a strong emotional quotient was a great recipe as an indicator as well for future high potential leaders. Fast forward to today, we are in the middle of an unprecedented crisis. We're facing a level of ambiguity and adversity that we simply haven't seen in modern history. And so a third quotient has come to the front. That's the compassion quotient that I just mentioned. The intelligence quotient combined with the emotional quotient combined with the compassion quotient. Now, how does this all really look day to day for a leader? Well, two key pillars have emerged of that compassionate leader: optimism and resilience. Let's take a look at optimism for a moment. The Oxford Dictionary defines optimism as the quality of being full of hope and emphasizing the good parts of a situation. It's an innate belief that something good will happen in spite of the current situation. So another way to put it is, on a rainy day, the optimistic leader would say, not to fear, while it is raining, tomorrow it's going to be a sunny day. And this notion is very well articulated in the book Good to Great by Jim Collins, where he talks about the Stockdale paradox. It's the notion of confronting the brutal facts. In other words, the effective leader is transparent and honest and describes the situation as it is, doesn't pour sugar on it. And you could argue that the optimistic leader, in fact, is transparent and blunt and bold with the team. So on a rainy day, that leader will be honest with the team to say it's raining today. But the difference between the optimistic leader and other leaders is the leader continues the story with, but we will get through this together. And that's absolutely true right now through these rocky waters. We are facing ambiguity and adversity, and leaders need to grab the wheel with conviction and with confidence. The optimistic leader then grabs the wheel and reassures the team that while we are in the middle of a storm, we're going to get through this together. And I have the good fortune to spend time with CXOs of all levels, of various industries, including retail, every day here in India, and of course in my role as a member of the senior leadership team globally for Randstad. And one thing I've discovered is that the leaders who are maintaining a high level of optimism, even through this crisis, are the leaders that are leading organizations that are getting stronger. They're not surviving in the crisis, they're thriving. And that's interesting. That's a reflection of the leader, the beliefs of the leader. And I absolutely believe that the optimistic leader, who also has a dose of realism, will lead organizations through any crisis. In Good to Great, Jim Collins talks about the Stockdale paradox, confronting the brutal facts. And it's a great example of an admiral who was a prisoner of war in Vietnam, who led his team through very challenging times by confronting the brutal facts, by telling it as it is, but also reassuring his team that eventually, one day, they would get out. And they did. And so optimism is a key characteristic of the leader moving forward into this new world. Another very important characteristic and trait of an effective leader in this new world is resilience. Well, 2020 has forced all of us to build resilience. Another way to describe it is grit, as we know Angela Duckworth talks about in her book and also in the very famous TEDx speech, where she described grit as a key indicator of high performance. Resilience is defined by the Oxford Dictionary as the ability of people or things to recover quickly after something unpleasant, to bounce back. As a young guy growing up in Canada, it's no surprise that I was an ice hockey player. I still am, by the way, although it's tough to play in India. We go to the Himalayas every year and play up at 13,000 feet in the northern part of India. But ice hockey, like many sports, taught me some valuable lessons about resilience. And out of that came this muscle, which I would call resilience. And that is bounce back ability. You get knocked down, you knock down. There is such a high level of unpredictability in the sport. And it's no different for us as leaders. In good times, there's a high level of unpredictability. And in tough times, like we're experiencing right now, it's no different. There's a high level of unpredictability. And while we have said that this crisis is unprecedented, like we've never seen anything like this before, the truth is, when you break it down and peel away the layers, we are experiencing adversity, ambiguity, doubt, fear. These are all emotions that we've experienced in the past in some way, shape, or form. And they all come together. And by the way, we've navigated through those emotions in the past as individuals and, of course, as leaders. So it may be not as unfamiliar as we had thought. Let's take a look at resilience a little bit more. I want to break it down. There's quite a well-known model which was just featured recently in the Harvard Business Review. 6 domains of resilience. The first one is about vision. The resilient leader has a vision which is unwavering through good times and bad. It's the North Star. It's the purpose. It's the greater why. And those leaders have the second trait as part of the 6 domains, and that is composure. They hold firm through good times and bad. And while the water is choppy and the boat is rocking, these leaders grab the wheel with conviction and confidence, and they reassure their teams that while we're in the middle of a storm, we're going to get through this. The third one is reasoning, and that's really about logic. And that's rooted in the idea that the resilient leader stays in the zone, in a healthy zone, and doesn't get caught up in the hype, good or bad, and stays leaning towards logic in all of his or her decisions. The fourth one is health. And this is something that I'm especially passionate about as someone who's a fan of fitness, physical fitness. But one thing I've discovered as a leader, particularly this year in 2020, is that mental health is equally important. An effective leader, the exceptional leader, needs to maintain a high level of health. And health now is defined equally as physical as well as mental and emotional health. And sometimes that means just turning off, refreshing, relaxing, taking a break, and bouncing back. So health becomes equally important now for the resilient leader. Tenacity is the 5th part of the domain. And if we talk about tenacity, that's where grit comes in for me. It's the ability to get knocked down and come back. Well, this crisis has knocked a lot of us down. In fact, it's particularly in the retail space, has brought many of us to our knees. On the other hand, that's the moment of truth. This is where leaders need to show tenacity, to fight back, to be creative, to stand up, and to keep moving forward. And the 6th part of this domain or this model is collaboration. It's really about teamwork. The resilient leader knows that he or she can't fight alone, that the power of many is much stronger than the power of one. And so the resilient leader asks for help and support and engages and activates a team to move forward through the challenge. So optimism and resilience, 2 very important qualities of the effective leader. In my book, The E5 Movement, Leadership Through the Rule of 5, I talk about resilience and grit and, of course, optimism. There are other key characteristics of the effective leader. Certainly courage plays a key role, especially right now. But I would argue if we have to choose two key elements, two key muscles to take us through these especially challenging times, I would choose optimism and resilience. I wish you all the best and that you all stay safe during these challenging times. Keep that high level of optimism and continue to build that muscle of resilience. We'll get through this together. All the best.